Welcome everyone to the workshop for not PRIG. It's not even any PRIG. It's ISYS 5003. Oh, you had to switch to wireless. In actual fact, yeah, my if I try to connect my VPN on wireless using the 5G network, it won't connect. It'll only connect through the landline NBN. Weirdly enough, not sure why. Probably because 5G connection is probably not it's not stable. B, it can also be listened in on. So if you have the right tools, yeah. Now, what we're going to do today is just go over a couple of things with regards to the assessment. Okay. What I was going to do was I was going to have an example as well, wasn't I? I might do that last. What I'm going to do is just do a recording based on, because you will have to have some buttons for assessment 2 to move your object, rotate, scale, and reset. So these are the basic buttons. I'd expect you to have 2 move buttons, left and right, or forwards and backwards, or whatever, up and down. Rotate, left and right. Or whatever, scale up and down. Okay, so whatever we show you today, I'll be showing you one way to do it. It's pretty easy to just change, some of the operators to go in the opposite direction. All right, so pretty easy. One of the things that I wanted to show everyone also today is, if I can get it up here, is in the unit content. I have done a little recording, excuse me, down here, okay, for setting up your canvas for the correct aspect ratio for deploying to WebGL, okay? So this goes through setting up. I've already set up this project in free aspect mode. You'll notice that it's in free aspect mode. If I change it to simulator, it goes absolutely horrible. It teaches you how to, well, it shows you how, if you've done in free aspect mode or even in simulator mode, how to set up your canvas so that you can scale your buttons a lot more appropriately, and they'll, once you export it to WebGL, it'll export in the correct ratio, aspect ratio. Okay, so make sure to go and watch that. Now let me. So what we're going to do today is probably I'm going to record this, and then I'll go and have a look at and see if I can't demonstrate some examples. Now, what we do want to see is let me pull up principles UX design. The unit outline. Every unit has a unit outline, okay, and they will come with learning outcomes, okay, for this unit. And these are all the learning outcomes that you have to be able to achieve to pass the unit, okay. If you can't demonstrate any one of these, that you're able to achieve these learning outcomes, we can fail you from the unit, okay. Even if you pass the assessment, you might have failed the team part of it, okay, which means we can fail you in the unit, all right, because you have to demonstrate your ability to be able to do all these. So apply, principles of UX design, okay, to analyze and evaluate the UI of an interactive application, which you've all done. Apply design thinking processes and user-centered evaluation methods to meet design requirements. You'll be doing. Produce and present documentation, communicate a UX design product to multiple stakeholders. Design and prototype design and prototype the user interface for interactive applications in a team-based environment. Okay, so whether you're working or you're studying or you're away on vacation, we're still expecting you to develop in a team environment, which means regular communication using Discord. And I know some people, aren't very comfortable in communicating with other people, but you don't really have to communicate directly with others. You can share your ideas. You will be going and looking at things to get ideas. You might post a screenshot of the work that you're doing and say, hey guys, what do you think? You'll give information and feedback on other people's work, that because they'll post their things as well, and you'll give them advice and support and constructive criticism, and as well as um, building up a discussion. And hopefully doing this in a regular basis means that you're going to have a chance of passing this part of the learning outcome. B, uh, develop a good product based on feedback from others, and C, pass the units. So um, I have sympathy for I do have sympathy for people who do work full time and have families and things like that. But I've got a unit to teach. I've got learning outcomes to meet. So unfortunately, this I sort of have to throw the hardball at you and say, if you don't participate in the team, you're liable not to pass the unit. So it's as simple as that. So this is one of the things that is university wide. If you think you can try and pass the unit without actually participating in the team, you will be sadly mistaken. Okay, so we have failed people based on lack of, being in the team. All right, so it's you're doing a master's degree, so there's a certain level of expectation there as well. You should have already done bachelor's, and you should have done all the work in that. And now you're at master's level. You got to sort of step up your game. You're studying at masters. You want to be here. You want to study. You've got to study. Okay. We do expect you to study 20 hours a week. And we know not every student does that, but I mean, I could probably guarantee you I didn't study 20 hours a week. But for the units that I did, I was studying a lot more than 20 hours a week with the units that I loved, right? So I'm hoping that a lot of you are loving this unit and learning some valuable skills in it. Okay, so the other thing too is the more we see you participating, we see you exploring ideas and chatting to each other. That means I can engage you a little bit more as well, because if you come to me at the end of the term or in week 5 and say I don't know what to do, I'm not going to be very impressed, because you should be turning up to the workshops, turning up and turning up to the tutorials. If you're not able to get to the tutorials, you should be working through the tutorials. That's what they're there for. They're designed. We cover the bare basics sort of in the tutorials. The rest of the tutorial activities is there's all these tutorial activities where you should be going off and doing them as well. So I just wanted to highlight that because we are in week 3, and I have actually been seeing some really good communication going on with the teams. So that's been really good. So this isn't, this isn't a dig at this unit specifically for the students. I do this with all my units, okay, that have team-based projects. I've got to sometimes kick students into participating. Okay, and don't feel bad about asking a question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's no such thing as a stupid sharing my ideas. I feel stupid. No, don't. And in the same boat too. Everyone should be giving constructive feedback. If you're going to give someone negative feedback, back it up with some supportive feedback that helps the student. Okay, well, no, you wouldn't do it this way, but you might want to consider this. So if you're going to say something bad about something, make sure you back it up with something good. And getting the extra marks with that communication, we're also looking at your ability to refer to user experience concepts and principles that you've learnt in this unit, okay? So we're also looking for that. If you want a HD for team participation, we're looking for you to be able to discuss those UX principles in any feedback that you give, okay? So that's all I had to go to. So sorry to start off on a bit of a solid note, but yeah, we'll get into some of the light stuff and fun stuff now. So, we're going to do some programming, and then I'll try and sort out an example or two of previous work. Okay. Did anyone have any questions before we get started? You can give me a smiley face if you're happy to continue forward. So what we'll probably do, excuse me, for next week is I'll let Rahul know as well. While I'm talking, everyone give me a smiley face, or if you have a question, just type it in chat. I'll let Rahul know. What we'll do is we'll get before attending class next week, we want everyone to set up a project, or alternatively, start your actual project that you're going to be submitting for assessment 2, because we'll do some work in that. We'll build some buttons and do a couple of things for that for next week. Okay, so make sure to come to class ready with a project, at least, with one button here. Okay. Okay, so today what we're going to do is I'm just going to go over the code. The other thing that I wanted to show you guys too, okay, so this is really big and important, and I'll probably send it out in a message to everyone, was if you are definitely unsure on how to start and make your way through assessment 2, we have video on GitHub Desktop. You don't really need, you only really need GitHub and GitHub Desktop. You're going to need it for assessment 3, but for assessment 2, if something happens and you want to invite your tutor to collaborate on your project, okay. Have a run through of setting up AR foundations this week. Just have a bit of a practice of that. It's fairly easy, okay. You can explore Vueforia, but we're not using Vueforia in this unit, okay. It was going to be used as an option, but we decided to not, because there's a few more levels. You have to go and sign up to Vueforia. You have to generate a code. You have to be able to import that code into Unity and then use that code to associate to a pattern or QR code or something like that. So there's a few more steps involved. So given that we've only got 6 weeks, we're using AR Foundation. So this assessment 2 instructional guide, okay, this has step-by-step, going through absolutely everything, okay. I do not want you to create this, okay. You've got to create your own object. I have seen students submit exactly this thing that I've created in here, which is, it does demonstrate that you've followed along, but it doesn't demonstrate that you've actually gone and researched your, the idea for your assessment 3. So assessment 2, you're all talking about a menu, and you'll share ideas on the menu, and a theme. So you will have chosen a theme. And then you'll all go off individually and you'll build your own menu, what you think the menu should look like, and your own scene with the object that's going to appear in assessment 3. Assessment 2 and 3 are not games. Okay, I want to reiterate that strongly. Okay, so I can't reiterate that enough. There's no gamification at all. All it is, assessment 2 is just an object. It's basically a static scene with some buttons that we can make it move around and do, things using buttons. That's it. We don't go ballistic thinking, we're going to create a complete interactive game. There's not enough hours in the week to be able to teach you that. Okay, so for assessment 3, all you're going to do is we're going to be able to deploy it to a mobile device. So that's going to be fun and interesting. And you'll be able to show your friends. It's pretty cool to be able to look at something and then tap on the screen and an object appears, and you can, use sliders to manipulate that object. Pretty, again, it's fairly basic, but what we're looking for is your design using the screen real estate and participation in the team. So the big thing about the assessment is not the object per se that you're going to be using. It's everything else. It's the immersion that the menu is going to provide. It's the navigation, okay, and it's your ability to work within a team. So that's really what we're looking for. And if one team member does diddly squat and you think might be letting the whole team down, no, they're only letting themselves down. We're still marking on what you do. We're only marking you on what you do. Okay, so if there's something that is missing in the menu, if it's major, come as a team and figure out a way around it. If it's not, ignore it. Okay, you're not getting marked on that. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, we're going to go through and I'll probably rip through this fairly quickly. So this is being recorded, so I do apologize if you can't follow along today. I apologize in advance. Okay. So what we've got here is I've already got a scene set up with a Pro Builder object that I've merged into one. It's this really ridiculous looking tree. Okay. If you wonder how I got there so quickly in the scene view, is I just highlighted I've seen and pressed F. Okay. I have my canvas with 4 buttons. Okay. I should have renamed these, but for the purposes of today, I'm not going to really do that. You guys already know how to rename your buttons. What I will do is create a C# script and call this object manager. I'll just call it the object manager. If I can spell it correctly, the object manager. Okay, and up here, in the hierarchy, I'm gonna create an empty object and I'll call it object manager. Okay, so I've got to be careful that excuse me, I've got to be careful that it was reloading that script there. So basically what I've done is I've dragged the old object manager script onto the object manager, which has added it as a component in the inspector. Okay. So one of the things that I did earlier was set up my build settings. I switched to WebGL. Okay. I'll build this. So when you build, right click, create a folder, create a builds folder, and double click in there and select folder. And I don't believe I built this yet, so it's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm not going to do that just yet. Okay, I might build and run later. But once you switch to WebGL, you'll have a little yellow error here. That is this Auto Graphics API under other settings needs to be unchecked, and make sure your compression format in publish settings is set to gzip. Okay, so they're really the two only things that you really have to worry about. So what I'm going to do is go to edit and preferences and change my script editor to Visual Studio and double click on Object Manager. Okay, so I went through this with my class. For those that were in Rahul's class, did you guys do any programming at all? Just curious. I might zoom in a little bit. Yes, no, you don't know. You were there, but you were sleeping. Is there anyone from Rahul's class here? Mandeep, did you go this week? Yep. Did you do any programming in class? I'm just wondering if Rahul did enough time. Okay, so Rahul might have ran out of time. Okay. So basically what we're going to do today is just, I mean, the code is there in the thing, so it's okay. I'm going to show a different way of making our fields public but private. Okay, and we call them serializable fields. Okay, I'm going to create a game object, and I'm going to call this the tree. I'm going to have another, another serializable field, and that is a float, and I'll call this value, and another serializable field, and I'll make this one a vector 3. Now, I'll explain these in a little bit. Okay, position, start position. Okay, so this float is like a decimal, and we're going to store that in this variable value. This variable is going to be a game object, so that's the game object that we need to manipulate, and that's going to be the tree. This vector 3 is going to store the starting position. Okay, vector 3, vectors 2 will store x and y. If you ever do 2D development, you'll store x and y, but with vector 3, you store x, y, and z from the transform. You'll know in every object has a transform, okay, position, rotation, scale, okay. This is storing the position, the x, y, and z of that. Okay, so I'm going to create a public method called move object, and basically all I'm going to do is say tree dot transform dot position equals new vector 3. And the code that I'm using here is telling Unity that I want to change the position. Okay, so remember we have a tree being the game object, and that game object has a transform, and that transform contains a position value x. Okay, so we're using the x and the y and the z. Okay, so x, y, and the z. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to move mine, maybe I think on the x. I'll have a look in a minute, and we're going to add the value. So I'm going to save this and go back to Unity. Script's going to recompile, and I'm going to click on my object manager, and you'll see now we have our tree where we can store our tree game object and a value. And I'll change this value to 1 because this value will be the value that we want to move by. And I'm going to drag my tree object down over here. And what I'll do is I'll say tree. Okay. Excuse me, tree. All right. Okay, so now that I have that set up, I'm going to go to my first button, which was, I'll see now, move. I'm going to select a new on-click event, drag my object manager game object down under here, choose from object manager and move object. And when I press play, I should be able to press on this and it moves. Okay. Now, if I go to the next button, it should be rotate. And this button should be scale. And this one should be reset. Okay, let's go back to our scripter. And now we're going to rotate our object. So public void rotate the object. Okay, so we got rotate object. Pretty much, it is a pretty simple way to do this. All we need to tell Unity is get the transform, okay, and then make our object rotate on the 3 axis, okay, and you can play around with these values. This is X, this should be Y, and this should be Z, I do believe. Excuse me. Go back to Unity, go to my rotate button, choose the on-click event, drag my object manager game object down, okay, and rotate object, press play. And I haven't saved this for a while, and I should rotate. So you can see now I'm rotating my object, okay, and it's not very good. Another way to do it would be to actually create some variables. Oops. Actually, there's a couple of ways you could actually do it, but I won't worry about it. You could actually store this in a variable X, Y, and Z. So you could, for example, public float X, okay, just for example, okay. Now, if I change that to X, okay, this is now going to use this float variable. You don't have to do this, but I'm just demonstrating another way, because when I go back to my object manager, I'll have an X there. So I can change this to 35 maybe, and then press play. So I can actually edit these values here, rotate. Okay, well, that's fun actually. I'm gonna do this and public float X, Y, and Z. Okay, so we've got 3 values now. Go back to thing. X, Y, and Z. 35, 35, and let's say 35. Run this. Okay, what if I go, oh, and actually what I've forgotten to do was change this to X, Y, and Z. Now I can save it, go back. This will still all be 35, yep. So press play, and it should move in a really weird direction. Okay, so I can change this down to 0. You can see it moves in another way. And I could change this to 1. So you can actually change the values in here. So it's a lot easier to keep going than going back to, say, the script and trying to edit those values in there as well. Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is public void scale the object. Okay. And basically what we do is we say tree dot transform tree dot transform dot local scale, yeah, local scale. Okay, equals, all right, tree Yeah, tree dot transform dot local scale, and then I believe it's plus the value. Okay, so what have I done wrong? Tree dot transform dot local scale. Okay, operator plus cannot be applied operance type vector 3 and float. Haha. So what I've done is I've accidentally made a mistake here. Okay. I won't use value. This actually becomes, I don't believe I'm using, oh no, I'm using value here. Okay. So what I've accidentally done is I've left out serializable field vector, not 2, but vector 3, size change. Okay. So what this should be is size change down here. Okay. Because I need a variable to be able to, do the same thing that we're doing with the move, okay, up here, but down here we're going to be using size change. Okay. So we'll save this, go back to Unity, and go to our object manager, and you can see here when now we have size change. We'll just go 1, 1, and 1. Okay, don't worry about start position yet, but we have size change here now. Let's go to our scale button, choose a new on-click event, drag our object manager down, choose our scale object method, press play. You can see we scale. Okay, so scale, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Interestingly, if you negatived off the value, so you create a new method and you went the other way, excuse me, I do believe that should work. It might not actually. Oh no, there it goes. It went really flat. And it's, what has it got? Oh, it's gone reverse and upside down. Okay. That's all right. Okay, let's just go back to 1, 1, 1. All right. And our reset button. So basically what our reset button is going to do is reset the position, reset its rotation, reset its scale. I'm going to save this now, go back to our script, and public void reset. Okay, so tree dot transform dot I'll get to start position in a second. I'll do rotation first. Rotation equals. Now, the reason why, we're giving you all this code is because, we're also doing things like this using quaternions and Euler angles, okay, or Eulers. Don't worry about this. You don't need to know about the code. You don't just, it is used in movement, in various aspects of movement, okay, and rotation, etc. We're just using this to reset the rotation of our object back to 0, 0, 0. Okay. We'll also reset our transform.local scale equals vector 3. So what this is doing is going vector3, go x, get the x, y, and z, and then use, we set it all back to 1. Okay, so 1, 1, 1 scale. All right. If you've scaled your object, so let's look at mine. My scale is 0.9. I'm wondering if this is going to actually just not work right because the scale's going to be a little bit different. I'll have a look at this again, but what I'm going to do is, if you recall before, there was a start method, and this method is called as soon as the program loads. Basically what we're doing is I'm just gonna copy this code because it's virtually the same as this code. We're saying the start position equals the transform position X, Y, and Z, okay? Now down here, if I say tree.transform.position equals start position, that will reset where our object was stored. So I'm going to save this, go back into here, reset button, add a new on-click event, drag my object manager down there, choose reset, press play, move, rotate, scale, reset. Now you can see that the reset has actually gone a bit funny as well because my tree is now 1, 1, 1. Okay, but I've actually made some adjustments to that. So what we need to do is we need to store these scale values as well. So I do believe we could do that by using a serializable field, vector3. I wonder if scale is stored as a vector3. Okay. Yep. So init scale should equal new vector3 tree.transform local scale .x. Okay. I actually haven't implemented this code before, so I'm just wondering if it's going to work. I mean, the logic's there. And our local scale should be set to now it won't probably work on that now. It'll be init scale. Okay, so I think, switching back to this now, I don't know if I'll get an error now. Move, rotate, scale, reset. And it resets back to our initial scale, okay? So all that bit of code is doing here is these two are just storing, this is storing the initial scale of our object. This is storing the initial starting position of our object to be stored into. So we're declaring the variable here, and then we're assigning it a value here, okay? Initializing it in the start method, okay? And then down here with the reset, we're just resetting the position and scale with these, okay? All right, any questions regarding any of that? Give me a happy face if you're happy, confused face if it's a lot. Okay. So 5003. Okay, so I've only got that. Okay. Let me see here. I'm just going into a previous. Grades. Okay. Actually, what I'll do is maybe I think I've demonstrated this one already. Excuse me. Let's go to here. All right. I believe I probably showed this one before. Now, one of the shortfalls that this student did was that they didn't take into consideration other, the team design. Okay, so I might see if I can't find another one. Maybe Jonathan's. I think Jonathan's was good. Oh no, Hayes was good, I think. So this student created a dolphin, and I'm someone else that I in one of my other units is creating. I don't know whether it's a dolphin or a shark. Okay, it looks like a dolphin, but it has teeth, so I'm a little bit confused. Anyway, you can see that the buttons aren't lined up properly um, within the 960 by 600. If we hit the maximize button, they're all there. Okay, so they've used icons. All right, rotate up, rotate around the other way. Okay, um, move it down, move it up, move it left, and move it right, and reset. Okay, let's rotate. So it's bigger. Oh, there's an eye there. So they've got a basic scene, that they've created, and they've created this dolphin as well. So they've not only created the dolphin, they've created a basic, simple trees and an island. Okay, so fairly straightforward on how to make these. Some simple colors. Okay, and then the menu. Okay, is this menu suitable? Okay. Um, that's for you guys to decide. Now, I'll look at Hayes. I'll just see, because some of them, whoops. Oh, Let's see if this one works. Okay. Obviously, they've used an image that they shouldn't have done. This one, you need to click to run game. Oh, I thought this was in the game itself. This is actually set up as a background image, so that's okay. Okay, so they've got a really basic, looks like a shark or something. Okay, Finding Dory, created by Rosanna. We got other scenes. Okay, so the other scenes goes to another menu. Okay, so they might have only had 3 people in their thing. Okay, let's maximize this. That aspect ratio, canvas aspect ratio that I do talk about in that video that I put it out at the start of the session, is a way to fix up all this sort of issue. Okay, they've used a background image like this that they shouldn't have used, but you know, they've got this person actually made it like the box, like Minecraft. Okay, so they've had a Minecraft sort of thing. So not the best way to demonstrate. Okay, but definitely, you know, it does demonstrate they've thought about the help. Okay, as well. But so they haven't really demonstrated, you know, how to use Pro Builder, but they've had a bit of a go at it. Consistency and theme, yeah, dolphin to shark, yep. So these 2 students were in the same team, right? And I'll just see if there's one more. I think Jonathan's one was the. And I'll see if I can't find their project. If I can't find their project, I'll show you how I download their projects, or how I can get access to projects. Okay, this one here, Control C. This person's also made an attempt at a dolphin, but obviously, you know, different level of skill, right? And they've duplicated it, created a bit of a watery background. I've had to maximize, you know, a number of these because we weren't aware of the issues back then with scaling. They have a credits page, okay, but play, move. Okay, so the move actually brings up the buttons, left, up, down, right. Okay, grow, changes the buttons. Now, is this good design? Okay, it's really, you know, does this work? I would have expected, you know, this when you go move, and oh, there's buttons down here. Okay, so it's not immediately known. Okay, so there's a couple here that haven't demonstrated the design of the menu. Okay, they haven't thought about it, so they've missed that part completely. Okay. I'll choose one more, I think. And I'll see if I can't find assessment 3. I'll see if this one's suitable. Okay, so this is an example of someone who's used an image that's not theirs. Okay. I would have expected this to be hand drawing. Okay. The war, you know, they might have done this on the left, and they've added Team Charlie here, you know, which was clever. And then they've got the other people's scene, and then, you know, go to my scene. And they've added some color changes and also some particle effects. Okay. Is it a great, whoa, grow? I mean, this is obviously, I can see from the um, design here that you can see the little triangles. It's not a normal circle, not a normal sphere. Move up. We'll reset that. Have they demonstrated Pro Builder? Yeah, a little bit, but not effectively. But they've used some particle effects and things like that. So they're experimenting, and they've probably assigned a script to change that color like that. So, they've changed it. They've gone outside of what we wanted, but it's simple. But there's nothing else in the background, right? So, I would have expected something else to appear in the background, just to give it that feel that this is what appears in the world, right? Okay, but classic example of how they're thinking about how they might lay out their menu, right? So if I maximize that, there's an information button up here, doesn't work, okay, and all these other buttons don't work, okay. All right, so let's close this, and what I'll do is open this up again because I dropped out for some reason. Now let's see if okay. Okay. Now, you don't need to submit any files except for your Word document. Okay. But your Word document must contain your itch.io link. Okay. So we're going to be able to click on this and go to it, right? Now, what I need to do now is I'm going to open up GitHub Desktop. I hate it when it does that. Move you down there. Move you back up there. I'm going to File, and I'm going to say Clone Repository. Okay. And I can go onto the URL. This is what you'll be sharing with me in your document. Okay. Even though I'm the owner, I still need to know which GitHub repository you're in. Okay. Because, I have probably 100 students. Okay. So, and I have other teams working in other units with their own Git repositories. Okay. So, I need this off you. I'm going to choose a different path. I'm going to go down to Unity and just go into other projects, select folder, and I will clone that into there. So what that will do is this project has been completed by the students, the one that I've shared with them. I am now cloning it from the server in its current thing. So 2022 term 1. Okay, so if I go open and go to this one, I can say open. Now, it was built in 2020.3.30 F1. That's how far Unity's come since, this time last year. All right. We're a whole year ahead. Okay. So next year, well, this time next year, we should be using 2022, one would think. But we're already up to 30 F1 for assessment 3. All right, so there's probably a bunch of things that it's got to download as well, because they were using assets and stuff like that. Hopefully it doesn't break, and hopefully it does work, because I can then give you an example of a finished product. Did this score a HD? Did this score a D? Was it a C or a P? I'm not telling you, okay? It's up to you as UX designers to go, we could do better that, or wow, they did a really good job, okay? So we better pick up our game. All right, so and hopefully this doesn't take very long. So I'll just check to see if there's any questions. So Jordan, that's actually a good point to raise. And this is why communication is important, okay? It's important to keep the consistency between the scenes, okay? You don't want one person going off and do their own thing. I have had that, okay? I've had all every student, 5 students do the same thing to keep consistency, and another student went off and did their own thing. So, but that student that went off and did their own thing did not do well, okay? Yeah, so it's not, it is not just about the technical aspects of it. So let's go into the menu. Okay, so all their scenes are divided. Okay, so this is pretty much how it'll be set up for you guys, okay? Each person will have their own folder, okay? And there'll also be a menu folder. So that menu will have scenes, scripts, sounds, prefabs, objects, materials, images, okay? And you will also have your own files, okay? So I've set up, I have my name in there to say this is an example, images, objects, prefabs, scenes, all right? So everyone's going to have the same file structure, and then you'll pretty much only work in your own directory, okay? And that's how it's going to work, all right? So let's go into menu, let's go into scenes, and this is the menu scene. Let's go to the simulator mode. All right, we'll maximize this a bit. I don't know why that's not doing it. Okay, so this is their scene, okay, their menu scene. So press play. No audio. All right. Okay. So go into Tracy scene, and what will happen is on the mobile device, an object will appear. When you tap on the screen, an object will appear. Okay. It's not going to work on in the simulator. Okay. So I'll just tell you that now. I can, and I've forgotten. I think so. This person's added a UI. Okay, they got the scaling, the 2 scalings there, but no way to go back to the main scene. Okay, Russ's scene has got nothing. I think, and Rosanna's scene. Okay, she has audio that plays. Okay, so everyone goes off and develops their own scene, but this, every team member would have had, part to do on here. If I was to drop you a big hint for this, this menu is fairly basic. Okay, that's just now the reason why these aren't working on their own scenes is because I need to plug my phone in and then show you that way. Hopefully that gives you an idea. I mean, does that really give you an idea, guys, on what you should be doing now for assessment 2 and 3? So every person, so Tracy, Bushadev, Sandeep, Rosanna, and Jonathan here, all would have had something to do on this scene. Okay. Now, the reason why it's probably a little bit limited is there might have been, perhaps one or two people that didn't do what they were supposed to do on this scene. So while it loses its UX, effectiveness, the other team members weren't marked down on that. I'll let this little dolphin here. Yes, please. We want your we want your team name. Okay, so Team Gamma, for example, and we want the students' names on each button. Okay. We don't need the theme. We just need to know whose scene is whose. Okay, so that's important. Okay. Is everyone clear now with that? All that? Only 3 people clear? All right. So next week, what I'll do is I'll have this scene set up, and I will run it on my mobile device because I can share my mobile device on my monitor. So you'll see exactly how it works. Okay. All right, so that's all we needed to do for the workshop. Next week, make sure to come to the tutorial with a project already started. It can even be your own project that you're going to be submitting for assessment 2, and we'll go over and we'll start, working on, getting buttons ready and building objects. And if you have a question about how you might design something in Pro Builder, we could probably have an idea. I can guarantee both Rahul and myself are not experts in Pro Builder, so and we might be able to offer a little bit of advice, but beyond that, we're not expecting you to be really providing a lot of minute detail in your objects. We just want to see demonstration. The important thing is how you take the important thing is team discussion, how you take that team discussion and apply it to your idea of the project. Okay. So the idea for assessment 2 is you talk about it, you won't build it and then share that with everyone else. You'll build your own, someone else will build their own, someone else will build their own. Then you all come together after you submit it, choose the best scene or choose the best aspects, and then you'll all have a task to build on the final project. All right, so thanks for coming today, guys, and have a great weekend, and I'll see everyone next week in week 4.
Thank you.
Thank you.